my name is Emi Duke, and welcome to my very first podcast. I'm coming to you from Colorado Springs, Colorado, which is about an hour south of Denver. And while Denver may be the mile-high city, Colorado Springs, at least where I live, is just under 7,000 feet. So air is pretty thin up here, but I'm used to it. Anyway, this podcast is going to be about knitting mostly, a little crochet, some spinning, maybe a bit of fiber and yarn dyeing, and eventually weaving, something that I'm interested in getting started on. A little bit about me. Lived in Colorado for about 20 years. My husband and I moved down to the Springs a little over a year ago. We live here with his mother and the greatest cat in the world, Scout, and our dog, Coco. Neither of the animals is allowed in my craft room, which is in the basement of our home. Just recently finished it, so I'm pretty excited to get it all organized. I'm still in the process of doing that, but I'm having a lot of fun down here. Anyway, I've been spending a lot of time lately watching other people's podcasts and just been very inspired by all of the wonderful projects and all the new knitters that are coming on board. And I just want to be a part of the community, especially with internet. It's so nice to be able to connect with people around the world, and just couldn't help but be part of that. So I hope I have something that you're interested in to offer you, and hopefully we'll get to meet someday. Anyway, I'll just jump right in. A little bit about me, a little bit more about me actually. I've been knitting for about a little over 50 years. And while that sounds impressive at the get-go, it really isn't when you consider that there was no internet when I started knitting, and really no YouTube, which I like to refer to as YouTube University, because just about anything that you could ever want to learn, you can find on YouTube. And I understand that a lot of knitters have learned to knit from YouTube, and I have expanded my skills tremendously since YouTube started showing videos on knitting. I learned how to knit when I was 8 years old. My mother taught me. I was homesick from school one day, and being as that time there were maybe 3 channels on the TV, she thought that would be a good opportunity to teach me something that she really enjoyed doing. She was a knitter and a crocheter and a crafter, and she just did everything, even sewed our clothes. Anyway, I remember that she started off by handing me 2 aluminum needles, size 8s, and a skein of yarn. I believe it was Red Heart, that was in the rainbow colorway. And of course, being me, I had to cast on a huge project. That's me, it's go big or go home. So I cast on as many stitches as I could get on my needle, and I started knitting a blanket. And I remember that blanket started off with the stitches being about this big, and then it just kind of gradually grew and got wider and wider as I went along. And I love that blanket. I don't know what happened to it. It's disappeared, but hey, it's been 50 years, so anything could have happened. But anyway, that taught me about how important gauge is, and how when you first start knitting, any knitter, when you start knitting, trying to get your tension right, and being more relaxed and not fighting with your stitches is important. So that's one of the first things that you have to get through when you're first learning to knit, is just relax and enjoy it. So having said that, going back to knitting, beginning knitting, or my knitting skills for the first 30 or 35 years before internet, was pretty basic. I just would cast on as many stitches as I could cram onto an aluminum needle, and I would most likely and usually would knit a blanket. And I would start at the beginning of football season, usually preseason in August. It was pretty hot. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and football is huge there. And I would cast on my stitches in second half of August, and by the time the regular season started, it was down to my lap, just touching my lap. And then usually by about the mid-season, when it would start to get really cold, it was usually covering my lap, and by the time I finished the game or the season of football, and my Afghan was usually about the end of the season, Super Bowl time, and that's when I would be casting off. So I was kept nice and cozy during the winter months, knitting my Afghan, watching football on Sundays, and that was pretty much the only time I ever knit. My knitting really took off about 6 or 7 years ago, and you know, when you learn to knit from a parent and there is no internet, your ways of learning are either from other people, or if you can decipher instructions in the written page, which was pretty impossible for me. I'm someone that has to learn by watching and live, someone actually showing me stitches or a video showing me stitches. And so when I discovered that I could look up stitches on the internet, yeah, it was like great. The floodgates opened and I started knitting like crazy. So one of the things that I had always been afraid to tackle was cables. It was something that just scared me for some reason. And so when I found there was a TV show called Knitting Daily, and I'm not sure if it was that show or just a guest appearance on another craft show, but there was a gentleman that came on who was talking about how easy it was to knit cables. And so I watched and I was like, are you kidding me? All these years? I was afraid to do that, and it's just so simple. So of course I went crazy and I went online and I found a blanket, an Afghan, that was just chock full of cables, and I cast on and I knitted that. And I want to share that first blanket with you. This is the Lion brand, free pattern on Lion brand. It's called the Lover's Knot, and I will try to put titles up, names and things like that. This is my first video, so I'll try to put those up, and if I can't figure that out, I will put them in the show notes underneath, or the description box underneath this video. But anyway, you can just see that it's just got tons of cable, different types, and I just had a blast. And it was a pretty simple knit. Once I got through the first couple of repeats, it was pretty easy going. So it's a fairly sizable Afghan, and I will say that the original pattern called for tassels on the corners, but I'm not really into tassels, so I left those off. But as soon as I finished this one, I had to cast on another one. So here's my other one. It's a red one. I said Lover's Knot, and these little parts here, these are the knot parts, and they were very simple to do. All you did was you knit these 6 stitches in the middle here, and then you would put them on a DPN, and then you would take the working yarn after you, I guess from this side to this side, you would go to the end, after you knit the stitches, you would put them onto a DPN, and then you would take the working yarn and wrap it around the stitches about 6 or 7 times, and then you'd end up on the side that you started with, and then you continue on knitting, and it's really that simple. So I want to also mention that this first yarn, this first blanket, is Lion's brand Vanna White's worsted weight. I bought this at Walmart, and then I bought this Vanna White Lion brand worsted weight at Michael's, and this blanket is thicker and heavier than this blanket, because this blanket, it really seems to be more of a DK weight, and this one is an actual worsted weight. I think it's just the difference between Walmart. I think they have their products made special for them. But anyway, it just goes to show you get what you pay for sometimes. But anyway, both of these have held up really well. They're about 6 years old. They've been through the wash a couple times, and not a whole lot of pilling. And really happy with these blankets. So excuse me, I have an itchy nose. So one of my other projects that I worked on was, I really am a fan of Craftsy. I don't know if you have dealt with them or not before, but I really I've subscribed to their instructional videos. I've bought their kits and been really happy with the quality of all their products. One of the projects that I worked on was this. Of course, I grabbed this because I want to share it, but now I can't remember what the name of it is. Once again, I'll put it below. I think it's the Sparks, something about a spark. Anyway, really, this looked so complicated and yet it was so simple. The thing that broke my heart though was that after finishing this, I pulled it out to show somebody, and where did it go? I was just looking at it. Oh yeah, I found this hole. There's a hole. I don't think I snagged it on anything. I honestly think that there was a knot in the yarn, and I should have double checked it. I should have retied it, but I didn't, and it came loose. I'm going to try to salvage this because it's really a beautiful. I don't know if I can get up high enough to show this. I'm sitting on a stool, so I could fall over, but anyway, this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous shawl. Anyway, oh, and while I'm thinking about it, I did not make this sweater. I bought it at Kohl's. Normally, I mean, and if you're a knitter, you've probably done this too. I go and I see these beautiful sweaters and I start to reach for it and I go, I can make that. And then I don't. And then I don't have any sweaters. So I actually got this one because I loved the yarn and I love the pattern. So I thought, well, maybe I'm going to take it and I'm going to steady it and maybe I'll make another sweater just like it. Anyway, and then another one of my finished objects. I guess I should have said I'm starting on finished objects. So this is another Craftsy project. This is the Drachenfels shawl. I think a lot of people have made this one. I picked these colors because living in Colorado, I'm a Rockies fan. And story about this shawl was that my husband and I had gone to a Rockies game towards the end of the season, and I had to wear my shawl because that's what I made it for, was to wear to the Rockies games in the spring and the fall when it was cold. And I remember we were sitting down closer to the field, so I had to go down quite a number of steps to reach my seat. And shortly after sitting down, this woman appeared at my side. I had no idea who she was, and she goes, "Did you make that shawl?" And I was like, "Yes, I did." And she goes, "I knew it. I knew it. It sure didn't look like something that you could buy at the store." So I just felt so happy that someone recognized a fellow knitter and commented on it and really went out of her way to come down and talk to me. So anyway, that was pretty exciting. Another story about this shawl is that, and an accolade to Craftsy. I'm putting this back on again, I don't know why. I had ordered yarn for this shawl, and I'd also ordered yarn in another color. I wanted to make 2 of these. And the yarn didn't come. It just like it'd been a couple of weeks. And so I checked with the post office and it said that it was there in the post office. And I said, "Well, why haven't you delivered it to my house?" And they couldn't find it. So I was like, great. So I emailed Craftsy, and it was a holiday weekend on a Sunday. And I got a response back like within the hour on a Sunday, on a 3-day weekend. I couldn't believe it. But they said, just cancel the order and we will send out and reorder it, and we'll send it out right away. Well, wouldn't you know, the order came, within a few days, but then a few days after that, my original order arrived. So I emailed them back and I told them what happened. Hey, I got both orders here. And I said, where do I send back the other order, the duplicate order? And they said, don't worry about it. Just keep it. Enjoy. I was like, all right. So I got maybe I'll make a 3rd shawl, but it's the same color. So maybe I'll give it as a gift. Anyway, so that's my Craftsy story, and really, really fan, not only because they are in Denver, Colorado, but just great customer service and great products. Let me see, speaking of Craftsy, this is actually a work in progress, but I'm going to stay on the Craftsy thing just for one more minute. This is a this is another project that I'm working on, and I don't have the name of it, but I will put it in the notes. But these are some fingerless mitts that I'm making, and this is out of their alpaca, and I'm making these for my daughter. I was going to do this video 4 months ago, and then I realized I had a ton of Christmas knitting to do, and I needed every second to do that, and I didn't have the time to start learning something new, like opening up an Etsy channel, or not an Etsy channel, a YouTube channel, and learning how to do a video and lighting and all that good stuff. So I just said, you know what, I will wait until the first of the year, and here it is February, and I'm just now getting around to it. But the thing I noticed about my Christmas knitting is that everybody was wanting gray and blue. I mean, that was the colors, and I got so sick of knitting gray and blue. I'm really glad to be moving on to some other colors, which I'll share with you in just a second. But these are the mitts, and they're really soft, and they're very stretchy. And I will definitely give credit to the person who designed these, but it is a kit with Craftsy, and I picked these colors because that's what my daughter wanted. So I'll set those aside. And my last finished object that I'm going to share is this hat. This is the Skyping beanie hat on Ravelry, and I will give the details either on the screen or below. But I actually made 3 of these. This is from, the yarn is Ms. Bab's Yowza, and I love this yarn. It was really great to work with. It's just nice and bouncy and wonderful. So I made 3 hats and a scarf for my son out of 2 skeins, the blue and the gray. So really a great buy that I got so many projects out of just 2 skeins of yarn. And I'll show those pictures of the scarf and the hats. I did put them on Instagram. By the way, I am Yarn Duchess. Am I? I'm Yarn Duchess on Instagram. And anyway, I'll have pictures of these and the other. This hat is not in there, but the other 2 hats and the scarf are. Okay, next half-finished objects. I started working on socks. Everybody's doing socks, so I had to do socks. I actually knit socks for the first time about 3 years ago. I had done some hand spun, and my mother-in-law asked me if I would make her some socks, and I did. And this is before I really knew much about sock yarn as far as the characteristics and what you're looking for as far as wear. So these were made out of 100%, no, I take it back. They were made out of merino and alpaca, no nylon, and not very high twist. So they were comfy. She loved them, but she only wore them every day for about a week or 2 before they started falling apart. She had a hole. So, and since then I have learned more about nylon and stronger fibers that are more suitable for sock wearing. So the first one I want to share is actually, I started dyeing yarn this last year. I'd actually been dyeing fiber for a while, but got into the yarn dyeing, and I'll go into that in another podcast. But this is my one of my first yarns that I did around Christmas time. It's my Christmas Hollies and Berries. And I wanted to knit it up to see how the technique that I used for dyeing worked. And I'm pretty happy that there wasn't a lot of pooling. It's also my first contrasting heel and toe. I know the difference. Anyway, this is also my first afterthought heel. And I'm not too crazy about this ridge and the little points on the end here. They look fine when I'm wearing the sock, but I don't know. I'm working on different yarn pattern, or not yarn pattern, sock patterns and different heels and toes. This is a cuff down. I did a 2x2 rib at the top and then just your basic vanilla sock. So yeah, so I'm going to be practicing. I'm going to be trying out different sock patterns and different toes and different heels until I find something that I really like. But when I put these on, they look great, so can't complain. The other one that I'm working on is, actually I should go back to this one. This is another work in progress in a half object, kind of snagged here. This is another sock in one of my colorways. It's my pumpkin spice. I really am happy with the way the speckles came out on this one. This is a 3x1 rib, and really enjoying this. It's very stretchy. Got the afterthought heel placed there, and then this is my other colorway, which is cinnamon, that I thought would go well with the pumpkin spice. So I'm working on that. I got the second sock. No second sock syndrome here. I got the second sock going. Got the that in there too, and this is the yarn skeined up. Just, I'm really happy with the way the speckle came out. I'm going to try this technique on some other colors. This yarn is what I have in my shop as the tough sock, and it's really more suitable for heels and toes, but if you're tough on your socks, this is good for an entire sock. So I'm trying this out. I'm just experimenting and seeing what works, and I will see how these wear and maybe get back to you on that. Oh, this sock, going back to this is actually an 80-20 merino, and then this is the tough sock in the heel and the toe. So there's a difference in the two socks. And then finally, I have another sock, and I'm just really loving this sock. This is the Zauberball sock yarn. Not quite finished with it, but I just love the way the color changes. It's just really, get that in there, really pretty. And I just did a traditional heel and flap gusset, heel flap and gusset. This is a 3x1 rib. I started off with a 1x1 rib at the top, and then changed to the 3x1 rib. This is I think also a free pattern that I got on Ravelry. And I like the toe. This is a little bit different, is that you knit down. Oops, it looks like I dropped some stitches. Got to pick them back up before I lose them all. But this is one where you knit down to about 8 stitches, and then you just put your yarn through all your live stitches and just pull it. And so it's not your Kitchener stitch toe. It's just a pull. I don't know the word for it, but I think you get the idea. So there's my second sock, also working on the second sock here. And the stripes do not repeat exactly the same, but they look great anyway. So they're not going to be exactly matchy-matchy, but it's still a beautiful sock. All the colors, they go together. And after knitting, I'm down to the toe on this one. So after knitting almost 2 full socks, I still have this much left. So I don't know, I think I might have enough to do some fingerless mitts with maybe some contrasting cuff and whatever you call the end of it at the top there when I finish it off. But the ribbing at the top and the ribbing at the cuff and the ribbing around the thumb could be a complementary color, and I could maybe get some more out of this. So we'll see. Just moving along pretty quickly here. What next? So works in progress. Those are my works in progress. I have a couple more works in progress that I'd like to share. This one, this one is a work in progress that's been in progress for like 7 years. Anyway, this is a, well, first let me show you. This is a project I started working on for my husband. And there was a yarn shop in Parker, Colorado that went out of business, and I went for their going out of business sale, and I got a lot of this yarn like half price. And I picked up this book. It's the Queensland, I hope it's not backwards, it's the Queensland Pretty as a Picture by Jenny Watson Designs, and it's their 13th collection. But I found this sweater in there that my husband decided that he wanted, and beautiful sweater. It's a chunky weight yarn. The only thing that kind of daunted me a bit was this zipper. I'd never done a zipper before on knitted fabric. I really wanted to just do a pullover, but I thought I'll try something. I'll learn something new. So I bought this yarn. It's Kathmandu. It's a chunky weight, and it's made with, I believe, wool and camel and cashmere, or is it silk? Look it up. It's Kathmandu Queensland collection. Anyway, so this is, I still need to tack down this collar. And I got the sweater completely done except for that and the zipper, because I was having a heck of a time finding a zipper that would fit this sweater that had a nice pull ring on it. But anyway, I thought that was the only thing stopping me. And then I had him try on the sweater a few months ago and was upset to find out, because this is my first sweater, that the sleeves were huge on him, and the length was a couple inches too long. And so I pulled out the other sleeve, and I am in the process of reknitting it. But I had to take about 10 stitches out. So I'm going to be fiddling with trying to get this new revised sleeve into the existing sleeve hole. So we'll see how that works out. I will keep you apprised if you come back and watch me again. So anyway, that's what I'm working on this one. I was hoping to have this done by our anniversary, but that's next week, and I don't think it's going to happen. So I still have another sleeve to pull out and unravel and reknit. So yeah, maybe for his birthday. And then he can wait another 6 months before he can wear it. So that's my major work in progress. One of the things that I planned on doing this year was pulling out all of my UFOs and finishing them. So that's that. And then I have a new cast on that I'm really excited about. I am working on the Scania shawl. It's the knit along with the Grocery Girls on Off Your Needles, and these are the colors that I picked, and more fall colors, and I'm really happy with the way this is coming along. The instructions were different than anything I'd seen before, and I have to admit I got a little stressed out trying to figure out how to work them. I didn't bring the instructions down with me, but they were done in sections rather than just written out line by line, which is what I'm used to. But once I got the idea of the sections, because the first, I'm all tangled up here. The first section was this one right here. So it's just for knit, and it tells you in the instructions to knit 4, that's section 1, and then you have your second section, which is the faux cable, and then you have all the main, which is just knitting, and then you have the SSE, which is another term that I was not familiar with, and went on to YouTube to look it up and find out how to do an SSE, and then found that the description on how to do an SSE was actually in the instructions or the pattern that came with it, but it was buried on the 3rd or 4th page, and so I didn't see it until after I had been knitting for a while. But once you get started on this project, it's super easy. So these are my, using the Craftsy bag that my yarn came in as my project bag. I don't have any of the fancy project bags that are so popular now. Typically my project bag is whatever plastic bag is handy, or I have some totes that I use. But this is my lightest color, which is the oatmeal. And then I have the taupe, which is my second color. And then I have, it's called the Shayla Heather, which is my 3rd color. And then I have my 2 dark colors, which is the green and autumn heather, I think it's called. And this is, I think, a forest. But anyway, these are my colors. And I wasn't too sure about these. One thing I will say about Craftsy that I'm not real keen on, and maybe they will fix it eventually, when you pick out your colors for a kit, you can only look at each color individually. I really would like to see, okay, I've picked these colors, can I see them all together? Or at least, you know, in a line where each picture is side by side so I can see how they go together. I don't think that you can really go wrong, but I kind of would like to visualize, you know, what it would look like. After I've picked them, I might, you know, changed out one of these colors, I think, because they're very close together. But, and maybe I wouldn't have gone with the green, but it's really a pretty shawl, and I think I'm going to enjoy wearing it, but it's very autumny, and I think it'll look good on me. You know, I am drawn to autumn colors. I really like greens and rusts and, you know, natural colors, but I found out years ago that I'm actually more of a winter. So the colors that I like and the colors that look good on me are not always necessarily the same. So I think this will look good. So far, purple is a winter color, and that looks good on me too. Black and white I can wear. So anyway, that's my works in progress, at least all the ones that I was able to get together and present at this time. The only other thing that I wanted to share with you is a little bit of spinning. I did, and it is a, it was a braid that I purchased on Facebook from a lady by the name of Arlene Vasquez. She was she sells her wares on the FiberArts marketplace. I don't know if she has an Etsy shop, but I'm really, really happy with the way these colors came out. And since it's BFL and nylon, I think it'll make a good sock. So I'm looking forward to casting these on next. As far as also in the spinning range, there is also a lady who, that I purchased these. Now I have a spinning wheel. I have I already forgot what it is. Kiwi. I have a Kiwi 2 spinning wheel. I just got that, started spinning about 4 years ago, and I just love spinning. But I started off with the drop spindle. I have my original Louette that I got. This is the bottom one. I have a top one too. Oh, there it goes. Anyway, I got the spinning, the learning to spin kit. It was a Louette. They provided the drop spindle and 3 different types of wool, one of which was BFL, and I don't remember what the other 2 were, but I dropped the spindle a lot, but just absolutely love, I still love spinning with the spindle, and I love spinning with the spinning wheel. They're just 2 different types of spinning, pretty much, where one is you're using your arms and the other one you're using your feet and your hands. But I do some of my best spinning on the drop spindle because I can feel the tension of the yarn more, so I get more even. I can't twist on it. So anyways, that's those. But then I on Facebook, once again, I think it was in FiberArts Marketplace, there was a lady that was selling these beautiful drop spindles, and they have stone whorls. This is, and I don't have the names. I should do more homework before I do these videos. In the future, I will. But once again, I will try to put all this information in my description box. But these gorgeous stone whorls that I couldn't just have one. I had to buy multiple. So there you go. Anyway, and then that comes with you can get the dark wood or you can get the light wood. She owns Calico Farms Fiber Arts, and it is a farm where they rescue fiber animals from neglect and abuse, and I definitely wanted to support that. So I bought her spindles, and the very first one that I bought, actually she was offering fiber to go along with it. So this is my first spindle that I bought from her. I love that little pink spot in there. Here we go. And she had this sparkly fiber. It was a bat. I've never spun from a bat before, so this is fun. But anyway, this is just a portion of it. And let's see if I can find some of the sparkle in there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Well, where is it? There's sparkle somewhere. No. Well, let me see if there's one in this one. So these are just gorgeous, lush bats, and I just love these colors. And I'm still not seeing the sparkle, but it's in there. Trust me, it's in there. I think it's maybe it's on the inside. There it all is, but it's not showing up on the camera. But there's green. There it is. You can see just a little bit of it there. The green sparkly stuff. And then I guess last but not least, my son, Evan, had an opportunity to go to Japan for the first time, and with a cultural exchange program. And I jokingly said, hey, you know, if you have an opportunity, I'd sure love to have some yarn. Because he said, Mom, what would you like from Japan? And I said, yarn, seriously. So he did. He did. It took him, surprisingly, it took him a little bit of doing to get the yarn. He had several people helping him try to find a place. And I didn't give him any instructions other than just get me some yarn. I just wanted to see what he would come up with. And he came up with Noro. And I didn't want to tell him that you can get Noro in the United States, but he got it because it was made in Japan. So, and he got me 2 skeins, and it is what is this? Put the glasses on, that would help. Let me see here. This is a 100% wool, 50-gram ball. So I'll see if I can make him something. It's a little on the itchy side. Actually, not bad. Also, too, he got me this book. It is a pattern book. Is that the right side? Yeah. It says Erin Knitting, and everything else is in Japanese. Including all the instructions. I don't read Japanese. There are a lot of charts. Whoops. There is a lot of pictures. So, and some of these patterns are just really, of course, you know, Before, when I was flipping through them, it just like was one gorgeous pattern after another. And now that I'm flipping through it, I can't seem to find any patterns, just writing. But anyway, here's a little bit. There's a vest and a sweater. But anyway, I think what I'll do is I will, people loved, my friends loved the cover. When I put this on Instagram, they were like, I love that pattern. I think what I'll do is I will pick out a pattern. That one's really nice. Another vest and a cowl. I'll pick out a pattern, and my son speaks Japanese and he writes Japanese, and I will have him translate for me. That'll be a good exercise for him. Anyway, the only other thing, that's pretty much it I have, but the only other thing that I wanted to include in my videos was exploring some of the yarn shops in my area and sharing them with you. One of the things I really enjoyed about watching other people's podcasts is seeing, you know, where they live, what their life is like, especially if they live in another country and even another part of the United States. It's just fascinating. It's a way to travel without leaving your home. So things that you might think are really mundane, like, you know, your favorite coffee shop or your favorite restaurant or just the local yarn shop. It's pretty fascinating seeing, you know, the streets and the buildings, the architecture, the countryside. I just really enjoy all of that. So I wanted to share some of that with you, especially those of you who live in other countries and are curious about what Colorado is like. I'm not going to be limiting myself just to the Springs area. We travel a lot for various reasons. I'd like to travel by car just because you can see the countryside better that way. So I think on this podcast, I will include some footage that I took of a yarn shop that is in Littleton, Colorado. It was close to me when we lived up there. Where I said we moved to the Springs about a little over a year ago, but we spent 18 some years up in the Parker, South Metro, Denver area. And one of my favorite shops up there is called Colorful Yarn. And it's in a unique building. It's actually in the main floor of a 4 or 5 story office building. So they don't have, you know, their name out on the front on a marquee or anything like in a shopping center. They have little signs in the windows and on pickets in the front, in the ground saying, you know, we're here. They started off as just like one little tiny office space, but they had so much yarn just crammed full. And the last time that I went there, which is the footage that I'm going to share with you, is they have expanded twice. I went once when they had expanded one office over, and now I think they're taking up almost half of the first floor, and it's just amazing. They have a lot of local yarn. They have a lot of indie dyers, and of course the usual name brand manufactured big manufacturers. They don't have a lot in the way of fiber, but they have a lot of books and needles and notions and all kinds of things there. Anyway, so I'm going to share that with you at the end of this podcast. The next one, I'm thinking I might podcast every couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. Next week, about 2 weeks, I'm going to be staying at the Broadmoor Hotel. Now that is something that has been on my bucket list for a while. Just had an opportunity with my husband's work to go there, so I will be knitting and video taping just a little bit of the Broadmoor Hotel, and really looking forward to that. So it'll be after our anniversary, but sort of a late anniversary celebration. We got married on Valentine's Day, and as romantic as that sounds, if I had to do it over again, I would not, because it's impossible to get a reservation at a restaurant on your anniversary on Valentine's Day. So we usually celebrate a few days before or a few days after, just for that reason. But anyway, I would love to hear your comments about the podcast. I hope that you will come back and see me again. And I hope that you got something that you were hoping to get that you haven't gotten anywhere else. But this was fun. It was a little scary at first, but I feel like I'm kind of gotten the hang of it and won't be too scared to do this a second time and maybe a third. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.